but they didn't realize that the amount of emotional pain I was in. And many people don't realize that there are many of us who are in deep emotional pain. And like I said, we wear that mask that says, yeah, it's all right, I'm fine. But we're not. And unless we can find a way to take that mask off with someone safe, or to share our pain, which is really taking the mask off, we will just continue going down the road of, oh, everything's fine, when it's not.
All right, well, we are thrilled today to have, I'm going to call you a friend because we've done this before, but Leon Logothetis, and we had the chance to connect virtually at the very beginning of COVID. And I began following some of your journey and watching your show, The Kindness Diaries, and just got sucked in. And not only sucked in, just inspired. And I think so much of what motivated us to do this podcast is to believe that there is goodness and kindness in the world, that people are longing for it. And we really want to help people find it and find people who are doing really good things to help bring people together and even kind of deal with this pandemic of loneliness that I think COVID has only accentuated. Hey friends, I'm Chris Bennett, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, Julie.
Hey everyone.
Together, we're going to explore the life-changing power of family.
So pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and join us on Finding Family.
Family, all in this together. Family, we're taking a chance. Family, like birds of a feather. Family, you got my shoes in dance.
Thanks so much for being with us, and I would just love for you to, for those that don't know, give us a little bit of your backstory, and then we'll dive into some of the work you're doing.
Sure. So thanks for having me. The backstory, the short version, is that I used to be a broker in the city of London. And on the outside, I had everything you could ever want. And on the inside, I had pretty much nothing you would want. But no one really knew because I was wearing a mask, and the mask said, oh, everything's all right. I'm fine. Yeah, it's all right. But I wasn't. And kind of the tipping point for me was I stumbled across a movie called The Motorcycle Diaries, which is about a man traveling around South America, relying on the kindness of strangers. And after watching that movie, I made a decision that I was going to quit my job and start traveling around the world, relying on the kindness of strangers. And it kind of, clearly that's just a short version of it, but I ended up purchasing a vintage yellow motorbike with a sidecar, and I drove it from LA all the way around the world back to LA, relying entirely on the kindness of strangers. And unsuspecting Good Samaritans received a life-changing gift. And it was a life-changing experience for me because it showed me that if I opened up my heart to the world would most definitely open up their heart to me. And that's kind of the short version of how I got to where I am.
So when you started out on that, was it like an experiment to see if that was true? Like, hey, I believe this to be true, but I'm going to actually go and see if that is true?
Yes, it was a social experiment of sorts. I had actually done some other things before the yellow motorbike, which is the Kindness Diaries, as you know, from Netflix. I had walked across America relying on kindness. I had hitchhiked from the Eiffel Tower to Red Square in Moscow on kindness. I had walked around England. I'd done all these crazy things. I took a 35-year-old London taxi and drove it across America, giving free cab rides to people. So, it was kind of just, it was a social experiment, yes, but it was also an experiment for me to see whether connecting with my fellow man would make me a better human being.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most?
I think what surprised me the most was that people were genuinely good. And, and I say this all the time, but if you turn on the news, you think that if you're going to walk outside your house, that's it. You're done.
Yep.
Right. But if you don't turn on the news and you do walk outside your house, generally 99 times out of 100, you're not done. And people are pretty nice and kind and friendly and respectful, and there's no danger. Of course, that doesn't mean that bad things don't happen. Of course, bad things do happen, right? But good things happen too.
So I think about knowing a little bit of your backstory, and then, we moved here about 3.5 years ago from Oklahoma, which I'm sure is on your bucket list. And have you ever been to Oklahoma?
I have. I used to live in Dallas.
I walked through it.
I'm from Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
No
so
way.
for a while I lived a little bit in Dallas, and
Okay.
so I know Oklahoma. It's
All
not
right.
far from Dallas. Too far.
No, it's not. And, we had a pretty comfortable, secure life, 4 kids and very predictable. And we left everything, uprooted, moved to LA without a home, without a job, battled cancer twice, all these things that were unexpected. Some we knew what we were stepping into and some we didn't. But it's interesting how, the idea of taking risk and stepping out, sounds really good. And then you come up against obstacles inevitably along the way. But I was wondering for you, when you made this decision to step away from what the world would say is, man, you've got like a killer job and you're set up. Why, you got everything that the world a lot of people would say is what you're working towards, and what did people think about when you stepped away from that?
I mean, they thought I was a nut job, but
That's what I thought.
yeah, but they didn't realize that the amount of emotional pain I was in. And many people don't realize that there are many of us who are in deep emotional pain. And like I said, we wear that mask that says, yeah, it's all right, I'm fine. But we're not. And unless we can find a way to take that mask off with someone safe, or to share our pain, which is really taking the mask off, we will just continue going down the road of, everything's fine, when it's not.
Yeah.
How did you experience healing in those places by going on the adventure that you did? I mean, obviously kindness moves us and it can heal us, but is there anything you'd say, even apart from that, along the way that has, helped take that mask off for you?
I would really say that kindness is just a portal to human connection. And the true healing that happened for me was connecting with another human being. And in the process of connecting with another human being, it is sharing one's pain. I often say in my speeches, I say that if you don't share your pain, it will consume you. Yeah. And if it consumes you, it will ultimately destroy you. And that you may be like, oh, wow, that's a bit of an exaggeration, please. But it's not. It's just the way it is. And that pain doesn't go away. It stays exactly where it is and just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. Yeah. I once read a quote and it said, I drowned my sorrows until my sorrows learned how to swim. Mm. And it was like, okay, all right.
Wow. Well, I feel like what we've learned through our journey as well is, we connect a lot of times around our pain and our weakness, right? I mean, I think when you live in a social media world with Instagram where it's like, we love to post the highlights and that's great, but the reality is when you get into somebody's story and you realize, man, everybody's going through something and everybody's had loss and pain and is working through their own thing. But I think one of the things that I heard you say in one of your messages was, at our core, we're all the same, and that's, I know you've been to 100 countries and all the continents, and it seems like you've experienced that. What would you say is that sameness, that humanity that you found everybody carries, no matter who they are, their background? Because I think it's important in that we live in such an unbelievably polarized, divided time. That's like, you have to look like me, think like me to be on my team or to sit at my table.
Well, that if you follow that philosophy, it ends in catastrophe. So let us hope that not too many people think that you have to be exactly the same on the outside and think the same and feel the same in order to be on the same side, right? Because bad things happen. The killing fields happen. Auschwitz happens. The Second World War happens. Bad things happen. So for me, obviously on the outside, everyone is a little bit different, right? May look a little bit different, may have a little bit less money, a little bit more money, maybe an introvert, maybe an extrovert. But at the base of our humanity, which is shared because we are all human to the best of my knowledge, we just want to be heard. We just want to be seen and we just want to be loved. And we will do anything in our power to get those three things. And sometimes we will do bad things to get those three things. We just want to be seen.
Wow.
That's
Agree
good.
with that.
What would you say to somebody like us with 4 kiddos, all different ages, different seasons of life? We can't buy a motorbike or a motorhome necessarily right now and drive all around.
I wrecked the one time I tried to ride a motorbike.
It's
tragic
true.
story.
We should keep Chris away from motorbikes. But how would you encourage families, of family units that are like, we want to experience what you've experienced? I know that you can do that on the daily, but I don't know. What are some ideas or some encouragements you'd have for somebody like us with kids? I don't know, to share in the adventure and experiencing what you did.
Talk to each other, I think, would be a pretty big thing, which I know you guys do, right? But most people don't. Make time to watch shows that inspire you to be more connected.
Like the Kindness Diaries.
Like the Kindness Diaries. We can all do things. It's not that difficult, but at the same time, if you've gone down a trodden path of thinking one way, it's sometimes difficult to go down another path.
Yep.
Sure.
Yeah.
And sometimes pain pushes you to that new path.
Yeah.
And that's why pain is not necessarily a bad thing, because one can use it to crack open one's heart to live from a totally different place. And again, there's no perfection, right? If I heard all of my podcasts that I've done, all my interviews, I'd be like, and I didn't know who I was, I'd be like, wow, this man is pretty enlightened. But then you turn the podcast off, right? And reality sets in. So it's not like, always perfection and always espousing wisdom. It's dealing with the bad stuff as well. It's like dealing with waking up in the morning and not wanting to get out of bed.
Totally.
Which truthfully happened this morning. And had I not had a podcast with you guys, I probably would still be in bed because, I haven't been doing as great as I would like to be doing. But it's just about putting the next step forward. It is what it is. I always say this and I always feel like I'm repeating myself, but at this point I probably am. That there is no perfection. There really is, and you said real, and yes, let's be real. Let's speak some truth. Let's truly speak some truth, and I'm not talking about truth on the news, like who did this or who didn't do this. I'm talking about internal, psychological, emotional truth, which is yours, belongs to you, and no one can take it away from you. Let's start sharing it. That's another thing to do, right? Because we live in a world, and again, I'm talking about internally. We live in a world of lies, where we're lying to ourselves.
Yes.
Right? Like we're lying to ourselves. Like I can come onto this podcast and pretend that everything's hunky-dory, and you've invited me to this podcast because I'm the kindness guy, so I'm going to tell you that everything's fine. But everything is not fine.
Yeah.
Right? And it's okay. And it's interesting. You said something about Instagram. You said we post the highlights. We should start a movement to post the lowlights.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm in.
That would change some things, right?
Yeah. Have you experienced that along the way? People that have been kind to you, and then you start to connect with them. Maybe you're in their home, maybe you're doing whatever, and you're like, wow, their life is really hard. And yet they, in the midst of hardness, being hard or suffering or whatever it is, they have taken time to help me. That's got to be life-changing.
Pretty much. I would say that there isn't a person, maybe there are a few, but the majority of the people that helped me, definitely when I walked into their houses or walked into their lives, I was like, wow, okay, this is not as it seemed. And that's okay, because that's my life. And I would imagine it's your life too.
Yeah.
I mean, you've shared a little bit about your struggles, about the cancer stuff. I mean, that's pretty difficult stuff to deal with.
But I think that's been the most beautiful part is what I've so admired about Jules has she's invited people into her story, not to exploit it, but to use her story. And it's amazing how many people have grabbed onto that, because when you're vulnerable, it creates vulnerability. It creates safety, so we've tried to do that with our kids, but in whatever pocket, the more we share, not like, yeah, the struggles, here's where I'm at. I think it lets people's guard down and say, okay, I don't have to be okay. But I wanted to ask you kind of one thing that I heard you say, which is, it was a TED Talk you did, and I'm thinking about COVID that still, is going on. Obviously, people are not in lockdown the same way, but people already were there's a lot of people deal with depression and loneliness and isolation, and then COVID comes, and we know the long-term we'll see even more of the effects of that. But you talked about one sure way to feel less alone. And I just think it's extremely relevant because it's what we're talking about. But yeah, can you just talk about that, how you've seen kindness be that place to how it makes you feel less alone?
First of all, kindness is a win-win. So if I'm kind to you, you win and I win. Okay. So people say, oh, it's a selfless act. Maybe they're right, but I see it as a win-win. And kindness is helping someone feel less alone. When I was at school, I was bullied, and I had this kid come. I spent 2 years in the library eating lunch by myself.
Oh my goodness.
And I had this one kid came up to me in the library and said, would you like to come and eat lunch with me and my friends? Like, it took 2 years for someone to say that to me. Right.
Wow.
And in that act, he made me feel less alone. And in that act, things started to shift. So when I say that kindness makes you feel less alone, it simply, human connection makes you feel less alone. Someone showing up for you makes you feel less alone. Yeah. And when you make someone feel less alone, you are helping them to be their best selves is you're helping them to be in touch with their humanity. Yeah. Yes. And that's the most beautiful thing that one can do, no?
Yeah. And even that, the more someone's in touch with their humanity, I think about, even some of the things I saw when I watched the Kindness Diaries, like you said, coming into people's lives, coming into people's homes, seeing their hardships, their suffering, their situations, and yet they're extending kindness and they're taking time. And it's kind of like what you're saying is the more in touch we are. And I think about this during my cancer journey in these last few years. I didn't realize how disconnected I was because I actually came into LA with a lot of pain from different circumstances, obviously not cancer yet. And then cancer enters and it's like, oh, I didn't know this could get harder. But that's how life goes. Sometimes life is hard. It's not easy. It's very unpredictable. But as I became more in touch with my pain, as you've shared, and that it actually has allowed me to be vulnerable with myself so that I could be more vulnerable to extend the goodness of humanity out, in me outside. And so I think that's such a powerful point that you're making for people that are like, well, I'm really depressed right now. I'm kind of like I'm the one sitting in bed listening to your podcast, What do you do with that? It's like, well, what a great opportunity. It's like, let's not be hard on ourselves that we can't get out of bed today. Let's engage with the really hard part of humanity happening inside of us so that we can then get out of bed and go, oh, this is a choice. Like, it's worth it. So anyway, I just was thinking about that. Like, that's what cancer did. It was another thing stacked on top that made me go, I get to still love people well. Yeah. And that doesn't have to be fake. I don't have to be putting on a front. It's just because I have to feel we were given feelings, I believe, by God because they're meant to be felt. They're just not meant to overtake us, but sometimes they feel like they're overtaking us, and what do we do with that? So, and that's, anyway, so I think that's what's so beautiful about what you've done is you're being very real on the podcast, and that makes the message of kindness. That's what makes it what it is. It's not just a good idea, it's kind of like family. We can be like, family's a great idea, but really okay, that's the right thing to say. What do you do with that? So.
For anybody that's listening that feels maybe in that place that you felt where, I think about years ago, but then again, we have ebbs and flows in life, but feeling maybe really alone and not seen and not loved, that can be very real and it can be very debilitating. What would you say to anybody that's kind of feels stuck in that place, to how to take that next step forward?
Sometimes it's not so simple, right? The easiest thing in the world is to pick up the phone and call someone. The easiest thing in the world is to send a text, but it's also the most difficult thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you can find your way to send a text to your 5 best friends and tell them, hey, I'm in bed, I'm not feeling great, I just wanted to let you know. I pretty much guarantee that at least one of those people will come over to your house, right? And maybe they'll just sit next to you and watch reruns of Dallas. I don't know, right? Who knows? But they'll come and they'll sit there and they'll fill a little bit of the void. Yeah. So I guess it's to reach out. And, it's easy for me to say, oh, just reach out. But, it's sometimes harder to do.
No, it's good. I mean, we have a friend who lives overseas and was just going through a really hard season. And I just so admire this person because on a couple of occasions, they reached out to us and let us in to where they were and feel like they were not in a good space, not headed in a good direction. And I just thought, it took so much courage to do that. And it's admirable. And just sometimes, just like you're saying, just the act of that first step, it doesn't make it all go away, but it's almost like when you find that connection of somebody who actually cares, you realize, okay, I'm not as alone as I thought I was. Because I think when you're in that space, you do feel very alone and like nobody understands and nobody gets me. And I just want to honor you for the man that you are and how you've chosen to live your life, because I know you're not doing this for you. I know you're getting the benefit of meeting great people and incredible stories, but you're helping so many people unlock, I think, even purpose and meaning. And I remember you talking about in one of your messages when you were being bullied and going through that. I didn't know the part about the kid inviting you in, but I remember the teacher that came up to you on 2 occasions or multiple occasions just said, I believe in you. I believe in you. And I've thought, man, how many times do those words that can set somebody free? I mean, just that one phrase, I believe in you, seems like that was a turning point for you. Would you say that was true?
Definitely. It was definitely true, because here was someone who saw me, who was kind to me. And I had a felt experience of kindness as opposed to having a felt experience of meanness. And that felt experience of kindness never left me. And all it took was one human being to show that to me. And you can do the same. Your listeners can do the same, and I can do the same. And it was a beautiful thing. I remember reading a book. I've shared this before, but a book called The Drama of a Gifted Child by Alice Miller. She's a famous German psychologist, I believe. And she said that we all need a witness. We all need a witness to our pain. We all need a witness to our joy. We all need a witness to our suffering. We all need a witness. And you will find that those people that go off the deep end and go to the dark side, let's say, more often than not, are people that have never had a witness, a true witness to their entirety of their humanity. And that never left me.
That is powerful. Well, maybe we could, sorry, did you want more? Go.
No, I mean, we can unpack this in a little bit, but yeah, because it's fear. It's fear to, okay, I should text my 5 best friends or call them, or like our friend that had sent something to us. Her texting wasn't like, I'm doing better today. Actually, I'm doing worse than ever. And it's taken me a week to send this text message. And I finally did, but I'm still really angry and really don't want to live, type of thing. And so it takes a lot of courage to actually realize you need a witness. So it's really good.
Well, maybe we could end with this. I know you've got a new show called My Kind of News, which I'm a huge fan of the title, and you partner with Southwest Airlines. Can you tell us a little bit about this? Yeah,
basically, I'm a bit of a news junkie, which I shouldn't be, but I am. And every time I turn on
news junkie, you're a good news junkie.
Well, I'm not. That's the problem. Anytime I turn on the news, I'm like, what am I doing? why am I doing this to myself? Like, how many times do I have to see that COVID is destroying everything? How many times do I have to see that the left hates the right and the right hates the left? I mean, you know, I just can't take this anymore, but I keep going back to it. So I decided that I would create a show called My Kind of News. And My Kind of News is exactly what it is. It's like happy news. Of course, I'm not the first person to do this and I won't be the last. But, you know, My Kind of News just was a little bit of a positive spin on the world, right? Because we see darkness. And what about some light?
Yeah, I love it. Well, for all of our listeners, just I would say follow this man. He's a great witness to the kindness of humanity. I'm so glad you got up this morning for the podcast and joined us. And what would be the best way we could kind of keep up with what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, you can find me on Instagram at The Kindness Guy and on Facebook at The Kindness Guy. And if you want to watch My Kind of News, just Google it.
Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for being a friend and thanks for being available. And I just have always appreciated you've been always quick to respond and you're the real deal, you know, and I think, you know, we can see people on TV and think one thing but then when you meet them, maybe it's a little different, but for you, you're the real deal. It's who you are. And we're grateful for you and the world's better because of you.
Thanks for getting up this morning.
Thank you very much for making me get up.
Yeah, of course. Well, maybe we meet up in person one day. We're kind of neighbors. So
yeah, we are neighbors.
Maybe find a way. All right, brother. Well, blessings to you, man. Keep going.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. See you, Lan.
We're not done yet. Get that coffee refill because it's time to unpack.
Julie, how bad would you want to be known as like the kindness guy? Well, maybe you'd be the kindness girl, but that's a pretty cool title. He's the kindness guy.
Yeah, because I mean, of course, I want to be like the next Mr. Rogers, but I'm a girl, so I definitely would want to be known as the kindness girl.
Julie has this amazing Mr. Rogers mug that has all of his favorite quotes, and she told me, like, so when you put hot water or coffee in there, his sweater changes colors.
It's so great.
And she told me, look, don't put it in the dishwasher. Did I confess to this, or did I blame it on a child?
No. I blamed you. So.
Oh, well, good, because I did it. I put it in the dishwasher, and now his sweater doesn't change colors, which is
real sad. It's really sad. But yes, who wouldn't? I mean, gosh, shouldn't the world be known for their kindness?
Yeah, it should
I mean,
be,
we should be. We all need more of it. It's not.
But it's out there, right? It's out there.
It's out there more. Everywhere. That's the whole point of what makes it, what he's doing so incredible is it reminds us that there's much more kindness in the world than what we're seeing on the terrible news.
Well, it's so simple. Remember, we were going for a walk the other day. We were on this hike and there was this park ranger. It was a stickler. It was $12 to park the car to go on this walk. And like we had a 20, couldn't make change. I had 100 because no, I'm kidding. I didn't have 100. But we had like
never
a 10
have cash on us.
And then we're scrounging and the guy would not let us, like, so you stopped two people. And they pulled out their wallet and dug through their purse. Let's
talk about the fact that I am in major debt to friends over the years because Chris and I are known for not ever having cash on us.
Who carries cash though?
I think a lot of people do. I think I think we think that.
I think like drug dealers do, but who else carries? I don't carry cash.
Jake Hartsock.
Jake Hartsock does carry
Always
cash.
Carries cash. Always. Who else do I owe a lot of money to? Because I was like, I need $5 to park here. I need this. Now in LA, you always need money to park places. The point is, we should carry cash. Kindness is everywhere. And this sweet lady dumped out her purse to find coins, enough coins, change.
Yes. So we could pay the park ranger and go on this beautiful
hike.
And
he wasn't very kind. He needed love, but he softened. He softened. He waved at me.
Yeah, you were really nice to him.
I was going to be the tough girl. They're like, Mom, come on, go be tough. And I was like, I put my Enneagram 8 hat on and I was like, let's go. And then I got up and I was like, be kind, be kind, be kind. Because I kind of wanted to chew him out because he was being rude. Anyway, moving on. So let's talk about that Chris said that I was very low energy.
Oh.
We might have gotten in a little tiffy-tiff.
Oh, yeah.
Directly after this podcast.
Because usually we record these right after.
Yeah. Yes, this is true. But guys, today, big confession. This is not right after this podcast because we got in a fight. Like a bad fight.
Okay, hold on. Nothing was broken. Nothing was thrown. I mean, some
you don't
people
have to,
listening
you
like,
don't have to defend
but
yourself.
some people listening think bad fight, and they're like, "Did someone go to the hospital?"
Nobody thinks
Chris go
that.
to jail?
I think you're overthinking
It was a moderate fight. It was
a bad fight for us. Okay.
Okay, for
Nobody
us.
threw anything.
We don't fight a lot anymore.
Because we don't fight a lot anymore. It's true. We did all of that in the early days,
Yes,
guys. You don't
yes.
want to hear the stories. And yes, I usually started them. And yes, Chris was usually the first to repent. Am I proud of that? No. Should I be more kind? Yes.
So I was trying to say, yeah. You're
So
just
can I
little-
ever be the kindness girl? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Because I'm so intense and I'm really kind, but I don't know if I could. I'm digressing. Let's just move on from that. The point is, we got in a fight, and this is a few days later because Chris was like, "What's wrong with you? You're so low energy, and you weren't being yourself." And I was like, "Don't judge me. What are you talking about?" And it just I was triggered.
She was unkind.
I was unkind, ironically,
irony. Yes.
of the podcast, but just like. I mean,
Leon?
yeah, sorry, Leon. Yes, I know it's Leon. Just like Leon said, he didn't even really feel like he was so vulnerable, so he didn't even feel like getting up out of bed, but he had this podcast, so he had to get on. And Leon, I am with you. I did not want to get out of bed that day. I was having a hard day, and I went right into the podcast, and I was super triggered. So it took Chris and I a good portion of the day to get through that argument because of all the things. I did cry for an hour because I've realized I don't cry enough. And I called my therapist. It was great, guys. It was really good. So what did we take from the podcast?
No, I mean,
Vulnerability
Are you asking me a
matters. No. And okay, here we go. I'm going to lead into this. See, I know I should. Yes. I'm going to ask you a question in a second, but I'm going to say this. Pain unshared eats you away. Leon said that.
Shared eats you away.
It can eat you away when you bury it. And so it was important that, I don't know, maybe that podcast, maybe it was a great therapeutic thing for me because there were some things that I needed to share that had been buried. Do you feel like, out of our fight, we're just going to totally spin this. What did you learn from our fight yesterday, 3 days ago? And did you discover any pain underneath the hood that maybe you didn't realize was there?
I don't know if pain, but I did. It was a reminder that like we've been together, we've been married 21 years, been together for 23 years, and I still sometimes don't know how to communicate with you.
Oh my gosh.
No, but I'm just saying like, I know even a couple of the ways I said things, I'm like, she's not going to be able to receive this. And I even knew it and I said it anyways, because I knew there was a way that I could have said it that you might have been, but actually you were, I don't know if you would have received it.
Was it awkward that I sent you all of my personality test and my Enneagram 8 in the breakdown? No, I'm kidding. Don't you know me? No. Really? That makes me a little... So you don't feel like you know how to communicate with me?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I do know how, and I chose not to communicate with you in a way that I knew you would understand because I was frustrated.
But
it was
some of
probably
that...
my own issue. No, so here's what I told you. I was like,
okay.
There's this thing in me that wants like almost a perfection thing that I wouldn't say in a lot of areas I'm like this crazy perfectionist, but in terms of like there's still a performance thing in me. So I think it hit on that, like, I envisioned this maybe going a different way or saying that, or I thought you were going to respond in a different way and you didn't. I'm talking about even on the podcast. And so I think that was part of it.
Thank you guys for joining our therapy session right now. Yeah, that is good. Yeah, performance. Performance is a nasty little thing that likes to creep up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And honestly, learning how to do a podcast together takes time.
Yes. It's true. It's like a dance, right? Sometimes we step on each other's toes.
That's true. Okay.
Ooh.
Vulnerability alert. Chris does not like dead space.
Oh, that was another.
So he was like trying to fill. He's like, I was trying to fill it, and I'm looking at him like, "You're good, chill."
Do you like dead space?
I don't mind it. I mean, I'm gonna talk. Oh, okay, well, that's true. I guess I tend to fill. Well,
yeah, it makes me uncomfortable. If there's like, I'm in a conversation with somebody, I'm already prepared to say the next thing because I don't want there to be any silence. But sometimes silence actually creates the best question or the best response.
Have you been to AMC? Silence is golden.
It's true.
No.
Know what I did appreciate? I mean, there's a lot of things about Leon that I appreciate. And if you haven't watched The Kindness Diaries, you should watch it. It's fantastic.
And it's awesome.
Really, it gives you some hope for humanity, I would say. But, part of his story that I didn't know was that he had been bullied, when he was younger. And man, I mean, it's always been a big deal, but it seems even more and more prominent because of social media and things like that. But I just think the power of our words. I mean, when he had that teacher, well, he had the student that came and invited him to sit with him. And then when he had the teacher that came and just said, I believe in you. I mean, who knows what his life looks like with those simple words. If he doesn't hear that, I mean, we'll never know fully. But I just think we can never underestimate the power of our words. And we sat the kids down the other day, and our kids, they're kids. They sometimes don't honor each other, and as much as we try and instill that, there's times they don't talk to each other kindly. And we set everybody down, and we just talked about the power of our words. And it talks about life and death is in the power of our words. And we can speak life to each other. We can speak death to each other, and at school they can do that, and we're not there to supervise, but our hope is that they become more and more aware of like the power of their words in a positive way.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the little reminders. Our hearts are always good, I think. I don't think that's usually the issue of, I want to be nice to somebody. I want to reach out, but I can get so into my schedule, my life, where I need to be, that I just don't pay attention. So it's just so practical to like just pay attention to people around you. Does that mean you have to stop every time, give person money on the side of the road every time? No, it's just about paying attention and being sensitive to, I just call it like going with your gut, being sensitive in your gut of right now, I actually need to get home. But sometimes my gut's saying, take the time, stop, pay for their groceries, ask them about their life. Sometimes homeless people on the streets here, I just engage in conversation with them. I just ask them. Some of them like, thanks for asking my name. I mean, you just never know. So,
yeah. And that phrase, ever be kind, because everyone's fighting a hard battle. I think that's just something, like you said, just being mindful in our days. Who's people around us that, man, you never know, one word, just even engaging in a conversation, asking how somebody's doing, texting somebody you haven't heard from in a long time. And, we had a friend pass away this week suddenly. And I looked back, and I hadn't seen this person in several years, but I had sent him a text, just about a month before. And I don't know why I did. They came to my mind, and I sent him this text just telling him how much I loved him and appreciated him. I had no idea that'd be my last interaction with them, and I was just so thankful. Because life's really short, and those petty fights that like we go to bed angry, we don't work things out. It's just life's too short. You never know. So be kind.
And as Leon says, the truest form of connection is from one human to another. And again, that doesn't have to feel overwhelming. It is just the little touches throughout the day. So we need to be more conscious of it. And everybody wants to be seen and loved at the end of the day. So.
Yep. Yeah. Well, appreciate you guys listening, and go follow Leon and watch the Kindness Diaries. It's on Netflix or Discovery Plus now.
Sorry, no, it's moved to Discovery Plus now. So
check it out.
Check it out. You'll love it.
See you. Well,
okay.
We'll talk to you next. We won't talk to you. You will hear us next time
on
Finding
Family. Okay, we got to stop singing.
All right, Finding Family podcast.
Bye. Peace out. Thank you so much for listening today. The best way you can help us get this message of family out to the world is by taking a minute to subscribe, leave a rating and review, and please share. You can also visit our site, findingfamilypodcast.com, and follow us on Instagram to stay connected.
And one more thing. Have you ever listened to an episode and found yourself wanting to hear more from our guests? You thought, man, I'd sure love to get more connected with Chris and Julie. I know you have. If so, you can become a member of our Finding Family Patreon and receive exclusive content and ways to interact with us and our community. Just go to findingfamilypodcast.com and subscribe.
This episode was produced by Dave Hanso and edited by Will Cotterall and is a production of Welcome Home Entertainment. Original music written and performed by Drew Holcomb.